name's Bond. James Bond.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Bond vs. Godzilla, the podcast that compares and contrasts two of the longest-running film series in cinema history. My name is Cruz Moore, and I will be your resident Godzilla expert on this show. Joining me on this cinematic journey for however long it lasts are three of my very good friends who each have their own history and experience with both film franchises. Bond expert Jacob Roberts.
Hi, I'm Jacob Roberts, and I wish I could fly like a dragonfly.
Audio engineer Willie Crook.
Don't do the hokey pokey if you're holding a camera.
And digital artist Chas Lemons.
Everybody stop putting your hand on the table!
On today's episode, we'll be tackling Quantum of Solace from 2008 and Godzilla vs. Megaguirus from 2000. So without further ado, Jake, give us a backstory on I hate sand. It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere.
Casino Royale managed to revitalize the Bond franchise in a way that not even the Broccolis could predict. James Bond once again stood at the forefront of popular media and proved it could contend with contemporary competition like Mission Impossible, Jason Bourne, and 24. Even before Casino Royale was released, Neil Purvis and Robert Wade began planning the next script, which was always intended to be a direct follow-up to the previous film, where Bond would have to recover from the death of Vesper. Chosen to direct the new film was German-Swiss director Mark Forster, who went on record saying he did not like James Bond and only agreed to the job because he did like Casino Royale and the new direction it took. He came up with a new concept based on the real-world privatization of Bolivian water supplies and the trend of major oil companies pretending to follow the new green movement like a fashion trend. Paul Haggis was well underway rewriting the new script until everything came to a screeching halt due to a massive writer's strike in America that lasted from 2007 to early 2008. With no writers available to polish up the script during this time, final touch-ups had to be done by Forster and Daniel Craig themselves, sometimes mid-shooting, since filming had already begun by the time the strike had ended. The title, Quantum of Solace, comes from one of Ian Fleming's short stories, although the plot and scenario are wholly original. The title reflects Bond's search for that tiny little spark of happiness after Vesper's death left him hollow and bereft of life. The primary setting of a barren desert was also thematically chosen to represent Bond's turmoil. I've made it no secret that this is the only James Bond film I genuinely do not like. And while my opinions and criticisms of the film have warmed and diluted with time, that sentiment still holds true. The direction is confusing, the editing is wild and out of control, the script is a muddled mess, and the symbolism is pretentious. But that's just my opinion. What about you guys? Were you able to find a quantum of enjoyment?
Hollow and bereft of life. Let's go with that summary, Jake,
Yeah.
from your introduction. So before we start carving into this thing, I think to sum it up in one sentence is we all didn't like this movie, but we all have differing opinions as to why we don't like it and why it doesn't work. Even though I personally believe that I can understand fully why this thing is terrible. Everyone else last night, the show didn't even start yet, and last night we were all in agreement that yes, this sucks, but we were all in disagreement over why it sucks.
Out of all the failings within this film, I think that the most grievous of them all lies solely in the direction and the editing. I think that pretty much everything that's bad in this film can be laid right on the feet of Mark Forster, who was not the right director for this movie, just bar none. Like, the action scenes, which are impossible to watch because the camera is constantly shaking and Mark Forster is apparently allergic to holding on to a single cut for longer than a nanosecond.
Do you know how many cameras they shot this with?
Too many.
Because there's just so many different angles in every single situation where
Yeah.
it's like, are you doing a camera A/B setup, or do you have like 26 fucking cameras
I think
shooting this?
camera A B. I think you mean camera A. Okay, take 2, take 3, take 4, take 5.
But in
Okay,
action
camera
scenes,
B,
like, I
camera
can't
C,
imagine
D,
that,
E,
though.
F, G, H, I, J.
Yeah, cameras A through X.
Yeah.
Like there's just and there's like hardly any cohesiveness between
Yeah.
the actual
Yeah.
shots.
It's like at times I was legit wondering during this, how many different takes are these?
You know, everything that comes in between each action scene is boring as shit.
Yeah, it's very cut and dry. There's not a lot of flavor in these in between scenes. They feel almost more like filler to get to more unsatisfying action that is just incredibly unsatisfying.
Let's take it from the very beginning of like Casino Royale's introduction is perfect.
Yeah.
And whether you're going in as a sequel or just watching this for the first time as like your first introduction, we start with a close-up of a mountain and a tunnel, and then just a bunch of sweeping close-up shots of a chase scene that you every now and then you'll see Craig's face and just
It's like,
driving.
Slow down. What's going on?
You're
What's
you're
it-
thrown right into the action, and it's not good. Only to just
there's-
crescendo
Yeah,
on.
there's nothing wrong with being thrown right into the action from like shot one.
Yeah.
So long as you communicate to the audience what the hell is going on. So many things happen to that car, but you don't know what those things are.
Yeah.
or why we should care.
Was the truck a civilian or part of the bad guys?
It was a civilian truck.
That was the big semi that crashes. That was a civilian.
But like
truck.
that's
Yeah.
like a big part of the problem is no shot lasts, like Jake said, for more than an infentosecond. So none of these shots can effectively communicate
yeah,
anything
there's-
or let you
They
like
don't- they
breathe
don't
and
lead-
process what's going on.
You know, there's a very basic principle in filmmaking where you use your cuts to transmit action and direction. If you have something moving from one side of the screen, but then you cut to a way where that momentum is maintained even if you're changing the direction. Each shot has to lead into the next. With this one, it's okay, half a second of the tire, then half a second of Craig's face, and half a second to this other car that's hitting the wall, I think. I couldn't quite tell because now we're looking at the bumper for some reason. Oh, look, there's a truck.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just it, Willie. It's like you should not be asking, was that truck a civilian
Yeah,
or
the
not?
fact that you have to
It's
ask
not
that is
conveyed.
a problem.
Because
Yeah.
like I made this joke a few times during like the first quarter of the movie. Who's the guy with the knife right now? Who's the one with the gun? Did Bond just get punched, or was it?
You can't
because-
tell, yeah.
That scene where he's fighting the guy and falling through the window and stuff, which admittedly that is a cool shot, how it
I
follows
wish I
him
could.
down into
Yeah,
the
it's a
glass.
really cool fight. Wish I could have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
that line, that was a really cool movie. I wish I could have seen it.
yeah.
Is like sums
Like
it up.
imagine if instead of this random car chase that we have no attachment to, no connection, crescendoed on time to get out, freeze frame. Imagine if just a foot chase leading to this cool fight into this glass dome, followed by Bond shooting the camera, and then title sequence.
Like
That would have been a cool title sequence.
would've been cool, yeah.
Of that, honestly, like the shot. But again, and I didn't remember this. Why was the da-da, and then shooting the camera at the end?
Yeah,
Big old shoulder shrug.
Yeah, they did put the gun barrel sequence at the very end, and that was to signify the completion of the origin arc. That like you see now Bond is Bond. Pull. Which,
Shit!
Fuck you, that happened at the end of the first movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. This movie, on top of being poorly shot, poorly edited, and poorly planned out, is also just kind of pretentious.
Yeah,
there's
it
a
really
lot
is.
of there's a lot of things in this movie that are supposed to
Time to make a real
mean
Bond.
something.
And I want to know your explanation behind that, Jake, because when you're telling us like that there's metaphors and that the desert is a representation of
Oh yeah,
Bond,
there are metaphors.
How
There's shallow bad metaphors, but they're metaphors.
Did you pick up on those, or did you like listen to a commentary that explained all of that? Because I don't pick up any fucking things from this.
Little bit of both, but probably mostly B.
Okay.
Commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for
so-
like the film commentary or just for like internet discussion?
Interviews, internet discussion.
Yeah, not internet discussion, but like actual quotes and interviews from like the filmmakers and stuff. So direct sources.
So when did he say that he doesn't like Bond? Was that after making the movie?
Was it when Roland Emmerich said that he doesn't like Godzilla? That's why he made Godzilla?
they had a
my
meeting.
God.
They had a meeting. It's like
So what series do you not like? Godzilla. Which one do you not like? Bond.
Well,
Let's make a movie.
there you go.
God, fuck, that is so
Like,
dumb.
like Jake, you talked about how this movie was kind of competing against Bourne and the Transformers movies, and it borrows aspects from that. Like, I genuinely and when you talk about having to listen to commentary to get some of the themes, I genuinely get the impression that whoever was behind this movie just did not like James Bond fans.
he definitely said that he generally did not like James Bond, and the only reason he agreed to this was because he did like Casino Royale, and so this was definitely a Bond film that was not made by a Bond fan.
But see, that's another big fallacy because James Bond doesn't need to compete with shit.
Yeah.
It has never lost money.
It's true.
I don't think it. I don't think competing with is the right term. It's more.
let's see
Those were all out at the same time, and
let's
so
see
they
what the-
had things to borrow. From.
Well, there was a time before Casino Royale really blew up. There was a time in which those contemporary pieces were a bit more on the forefront of the cultural zeitgeist than Bond. Bond kind of fell out of favor. Bond became, the joke. People kind of thought of Bond as the old pastiche Bond film, but no, Mission Impossible and Jason Bourne, they're grounded in realism and gritty. And then, Casino Royale came out and said, hey, I can be gritty, yet still be Bond and still be amazing, which kind of shut everyone up. But those other contemporary pieces, they were still at the height of their popularity. And so there was competition. Financially, yeah, Bond, blew them out of the park. But, those other pieces of media, they weren't nothing. And you had to know that the filmmakers, those other pieces of media had to be on the filmmakers' mind when they were making them. Especially, the shaky cam within Quantum of Solace. That's Bourne's fingerprints all over everything.
Which I looked it up. Yeah, at this point, it was the Bourne trilogy was already out.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. But in terms of what it was competing against for its opening weekend, Madagascar 2, Role Models, High School Musical 3, Changeling. So there's no fucking way it's competing with any other action movie at the time.
Oh no, and this movie did make money. I will say this movie.
Of course it did.
Yeah,
It's a Bond movie.
film. Yeah, this movie did great at the box office.
Even though this looks like one of the most lowest budgeted movies because
all their budget went to the desert and blowing up the hotel.
It's like this random fancy hotel in the middle of the desert.
Oh, that hotel
that just so happens to be fueled by something highly flammable.
There's just a propane canister around every corner.
That desert hotel is a real place. It is a real building. It is a hotel. It's in Chile, not Bolivia, but it is a hotel in connection with a astronomical observatory.
Maybe we should have had a fight in an observatory or something.
That absolutely would have been cooler.
Well, in terms of in terms of the action scenes within this movie, and this is another aspect of the pretension that was behind all of this. Mark Forster, he designed all the major action sequences were themed around the 4 classical elements.
Oh, that's so lame.
Hold on. Let me
See
think about this
if you can figure it out.
Let's think about this first. Okay, so fire at the very end.
Yeah, that's the obvious one. Yep.
A plane
Is
is
the
wind.
wind.
Yep. The plane, the dogfight is air.
The water I can only think of is when they're in at the reservoir.
Right. Well, yeah, with the boats.
Yep. Yep.
And then Earth is
The desert itself.
No, the Earth is probably the hardest one to figure out.
The
foot chase.
No.
The monastery.
No.
Was it when Bond gives him the can of oil to drink?
No.
Is it during an action scene?
These are action scenes.
You cannot understand.
Okay.
You could not understand.
The opening car chase.
Yes.
Oh, you.
Oh, because they're going through
a quarry.
tunnels.
No, they're
Suck
going-
my dick.
It's because they're chasing through a quarry.
I was joking.
Cruz looks way more distraught than I thought he'd be for this recording.
The car chase through the quarry is earth. The boat scene in Haiti is water. The dog fight over Bolivia is air. And then the hotel at the end is fire.
What a
Where was Heart?
what
That's a good question, Willie, because it
There was
wasn't in this
none.
movie. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
when he
Thank you for answering what I set up.
it was when he shot the cop in the heart, the dirty cop. What a contrived way to be pretentious. Jesus.
I would punch this man if he hadn't directed Christopher Robin.
Jake, what do you have a direct explanation for what the fuck this atrocity of a font is?
Yes. Let's see.
With every location, the font
Every
changed.
single location.
Okay, for the one for Austria, I could have sworn that I saw this and I didn't have a chance to actually process what the fuck it said. And I was just like, wait, what's this weird graphic? Oh, it's gone? Okay, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
So,
the fucking.
Like, did they have like a huge typeface budget or something?
Well,
Mark Forster just thinks it's neat.
So the opening titles were not done by Daniel Kleinman this time, but by a design studio called MK12, who also did all of those ornate location cards that litter the film, and the UI of the MI6 touchscreen table. And wall screen.
That's why both of them were so like nauseating to look at.
Yeah, they were
Jeez.
made by MK12 design team.
So since we're going through this movie like minute by minute, thankfully, I'm fine with that. This episode's gonna be 3 hours long of shitting on this thing.
No,
So, yeah.
the Bond discussion is going to be 3 hours long.
Right. Title sequence. Just shooting, sand,
Sand,
women,
so much sand.
lines in the
It's getting
sky.
everywhere.
There is nothing else.
Anakin would have loved how much they shot sand.
Were there any metaphors for this title sequence that also has a terrible Bond theme in it?
Well, like I
He's
said,
blowing apart his feelings.
like I said, the desert overall was chosen as the primary aesthetic to represent, Bond's emotional state at the time. And yeah, Another Way to Die is an absolutely horrible song.
It's dry as fuck, and it's not even a good dry.
It would be the worst theme song if it wasn't for Madonna's freaking.
Disagree.
It's-
This one's worse.
No, it's not.
The reason I say this one is worse, after like Alicia Keys' like first two lines, and she goes up to like a higher registry, it sounds flat as fuck.
And
She
Madonna
sounds out of pitch. At least Madonna sounds in key.
No, she doesn't because there's 20 electronic things going. Another day.
I mean,
Another
fair
day.
enough, but at least I can follow the melody with that and feel like that it fits. That theme song still isn't good, but at least I feel like it's well recorded and composed and mixed.
Like Willie's point.
This one is not.
Like Willie's pointing out the technical competence of Madonna, which I would certainly hope she would be.
Well,
Yeah.
the reason why Another Way to Die isn't worse for me is because I can listen to the first 10 seconds, which sound fine.
That's what I've always said about Another Way to Die is that it sounds great until Alicia Keys comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Even
And
Jack White's parts I like. It's
I don't
Alicia
care for Jack
then.
White at all.
I like Jack White's parts. Like, I feel like if they had... I feel like a Jack White instrumental could have done something really cool.
I remember
Could have been phenomenal.
going to see this in the theater. I came off with a love of Casino Royale. I'm like, ooh, I can go see Bond movies in the theater now. So I go to see Quantum of Solace, and as soon as that theme song starts playing, I go, oh.
I'm in trouble.
I'm in danger.
Why am I not liking this? Why am I now old enough to understand when I don't like something because it's not working? Okay, so we got through the shitty title sequence. We can now move on to the mystery and plot, so to speak, of this film, where Mr. White escapes, and we discover...
Something.
Huh?
We discover that
something.
Bond...
we discover that this weird organization that suddenly exists has people in every government agency.
Bond finds a lead with this weird dude who is one of the weakest villains in the whole series, but Jake likes him for some reason.
I do like Dominic
I want to
Green.
know why.
I do like Dominic Green. I'm actually gonna touch upon that in my speech I have prepared.
Okay, we'll skip over that.
Is this the wealthy guy that is the
Bond-
main bad guy?
Bond.
Yeah.
Bond.
Okay.
Okay. After that, Bond just so happens to run into what's her face,
Camille.
who has her own revenge story vendetta, which, like she says later in the movie, she could have executed in that moment on the boat, but Bond interrupted it. So that could have been entirely negligible. if Bond wasn't there, almost as if this is a whole nother story injected into a Bond film. Mark Forster. Is that a thing? Is that another story that he wanted to just put into this Bond film?
Probably, yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like a case of he wanted to put a lot of things into this movie, and by doing so, filled it with a bunch of nothing.
Oh my God, it's Chris Chibnall.
It's a yeah. So
True.
so as the movie continues, we get some of the worst cinematography in any Bond film
No, not some of, just the.
because Mark Forster feels that I'll take double taking pigeons.
Same.
I will not take. Let's cut to this bowl of balls on this table. Let's cut to this woman who drops cherries. Let's cut to this horse race. Let's cut to a play musical.
Let's
Apparently-
cut to the extras.
Apparently, Mark
many
Forster
extras.
thinks that establishing shot means looking at something on the other side of something else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shots that are just
Or
like
the back of someone's head.
Yeah, like this movie was sorely,
random extras.
This movie was sorely
I
lacking.
hadn't
in,
caught that until this watch on the big screen, realizing why did they film that person? Wait, why did they film?
Yeah.
Why did they like
Bond's over there. That's not Dan. That's Daniel.
Right.
Wait, what?
the only sorry, Chaz, the only good extra shot that I think they had, which kind of was like a oh fuck moment, is when that civilian gets shot.
But it goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere though, but it could have. There was something there of like holy shit, this person just got shot, and Bond either didn't notice, but fair enough to not have Bond do something about it, but
we still keep cutting back to the people going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, for
Yeah.
no reason.
yeah, like you feel like something's about to happen there, like a bomb is about to
Like
explode
Mark
in that
Forster
crowd.
is like a humanitarian filmmaker for characters that aren't real.
We have to focus on these real fake people.
Yeah,
like,
like
there-
I kept on thinking that like there was a bomb gonna explode at the horse race, and I've seen this movie before. I was like, I don't remember that happening, but why are they keep focusing on the horse race?
Like it just cuts back to the crowd. Like all of a sudden, the movie is just going to start following this person going to the ER for a gunshot wound.
The only shot in the movie that has this focus on extras that actually makes sense and belongs there is when they're focusing on the poor people in the village not having water.
Even that shot with the water, like, it's so like egregious. This is a close up of this spigot that has one drop of water coming out of it.
Yeah.
And people looking inside, going, "There's no more water in here."
It's because it was also a bit of political commentary because Dominic Green's plan is based on a real life water crisis that was happening in Bolivia at the time, where essentially the entire world's water supply had to be gone through the hands of privatized companies that jacked up the prices to inaffordability. It was just a whole gigantic mess, and that inspired the main plot. So it's a bit of a political commentary.
So after the villain gets defeated, do the people get the water?
Presumably, I mean, I should hope so.
I would hope someone blew up those dams.
Nowhere.
Like I feel like a better.
Give the people the water.
I mean, like Bond tells Camille to do something about the dam, so we can only assume she did.
Like I feel like a better Bond movie would show Bond like going to
know,
whoever the head of this town is and telling them like, hey, there's a water reservoir over there, and you could.
I literally just walked from there. You can just, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because we took a plane crash that we just so happened to land in the convenient spot where we found said water.
Yeah, and also, it's like through a parachute that deploys at the last second, but of course they don't
No, that's
splat.
fine. Yeah. I mean, when Bond found that giant underground lake full of dammed up water, I mean, he could have just taken a picture of that with his phone, send it to MI6, as evidence of what's going on.
With
Tell
his
that to Fox Mulder.
take a picture of it with his Sony Ericsson smartphone.
Which is capable of taking a photo of the back of someone's head and having it automatically determine what its face looks like.
Forgot about that.
Oh, I didn't even know what the fuck was going on there.
So getting to the quantum of Solace,
Yeah.
the most convenient thing of we need to have all these people elaborately go to this giant play which I'm sure was a real thing.
It was opera.
Only for Bond to say what I said, which is he should probably pick a better place to meet. And it's true. Why not go to a fucking Olive Garden if you guys are just going to speak through your ears? Why do you need to be at a play?
Well, Cruz,
where it's loud.
Cruz, that wouldn't be pretentious enough for this film.
Yeah, because
With a giant eyeball. Is that symbolic?
because like throughout that entire movie, I was expecting someone to go.
I know, right? Because imagine just being an ordinary civilian, just wanting to go to the opera house to enjoy an opera.
Yes, sir. We're gonna confirm the
Just
goods.
shut the fuck up! I'm trying to listen to the goddamn opera.
I'm part of Quantum. Who gives a fuck?
The fuck is quantum?
Do you not see my button? It is a Q. Oh my god. And plus, during an action scene, they keep cutting back to the play as if it's somehow important. And it's like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Again, I was thinking. Is the guy gonna try and kill like the actor on stage? Is that gonna be a part of the thing? Like, and I've seen this movie and I couldn't remember.
The only thing I do know is that the opera scene with the giant eye, and as well as the interior design of right?
Yeah, there's a giant eye that lifted up and down to show like people singing in papist costumes. Yeah. This movie doesn't let you process things very well, does it?
Don't remember.
I do not blame you. There's a lot of this movie not worth remembering.
The giant eye at the opera scene and the interior of the desert hotel were supposed to be reminiscent of Ken Adams style set designs from the old films.
Why?
Yeah, I'm gonna roll. I mean, I understand the homage, honor Ken Adam. I always welcome anything that honors Ken Adam. If you actually, do it right and makes it look like something that Ken Adam would actually make.
Yeah, like I didn't mean why, as in why were they trying to honor it? It's just like
It served no purpose.
Yeah,
a Ken Adams set serves a purpose.
I mean,
It's not just there.
I do welcome the return of the villain lair. It's just a shame that it's a very uninspired and boring villain lair.
Yeah, it's not even a lair. It's just, hi, we're here.
It's just where they're conducting the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a lair, but
it explodes just because a car backs up into a thing that explodes.
But because it's run by hydrogen fuel cells, it sounds very unstable.
God, why is it run by?
Because
eco green.
The only other shot in this movie that is interesting is when the villain is running and the glass is breaking behind him in slow motion. That's the only visually interesting scene.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a good metaphor for this movie is that it feels like someone is trying to dangle keys in front of your face, but all the keys are made out of plastic, so they don't even jingle.
They don't even jingle satisfyingly.
Well,
it's the worst pandering to ADHD people ever.
It's like I'm trying to pay attention to something, and Mark Forster is just dingling shit in front of my face. I'm like, stop it.
Let me watch the movie. The movie is getting in the way of watching the movie.
He's just dangling.
I don't want you to watch my movie, though.
Just dangling a key ring with cat turds on it.
It's a Bond film. I don't like Bond films. But you directed one. No, I didn't. This is better than a Bond film. This is unlike any Bond film you've ever seen. It's
Well, he's
better.
right about that point.
yeah, it is unlike every other Bond film because this is the only one that I'd call bad.
I grabbed that one.
And it's true, because when I think about it, like, every other Bond film besides, Never Say Never Again, I wouldn't consider bad. Like, my least favorites are, like, For Your Eyes Only, Man with the Golden Gun. But there aren't any that I'm like, just do not watch this one. It's pointless.
Yeah.
This is pointless.
This is pointless.
Yep.
This
Until we
movie.
get to Spectre, but this is pointless.
Spectre's at least not.
Shh.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Cruz and I will stab each other over Spectre. I feel like.
Die at the same time.
Another one of the obvious homages within the film was the way that Strawberry Fields was laid out on the bed in the pose reminiscent of Goldfinger.
Yeah, I caught that this time.
Yeah,
First time I'd caught it.
Just gives me the impression of the director saying it's an homage, and it's like, I get it.
Well,
I
you
get
see,
it.
Mark Forster doesn't insert something like that without having a pretentious reason. It was
I'm
supposed
gonna
to.
brace myself.
It was supposed to represent how oil has replaced gold as the world's most coveted resource.
Fuck you!
I mean, what's more non-believable, like painting a woman so that she dies, or covering a woman in oil and filling up her lungs with oil? Did they get a giant oil drum?
Yeah, they just roll it in.
like you have to lift that.
You know,
And
they
pour it over.
They just called the pool of oil truck to come by, and then they only needed 15 minutes with it.
Did they
Probably brought in a gas can. Why are you bringing a gas can into the hotel? Don't worry about it.
Did they?
Yeah, no. So did they bring the oil to her, or did they bring her to the oil? And if they brought her to the oil, they'd have to bring her back. So how did they not get oil over the rest of the hotel?
Yeah, they'd have to like bring her like in a big old baggie or something, and
Oh
then
no,
like
no!
let her
Also-
loose on the bed.
Obviously, they took a helicopter, landed on the roof, and just kind of lowered her in through the ropes. You know, had
Because
her
there's
open
no other oil in the hotel room.
No, it's just her in the bed.
We've already spent more time thinking about it than the director.
Did they force her to drink it, or did she get killed and then they poured it in her mouth?
Man, does Forrester have like a fetish of drinking like petroleum products or something?
Did we care enough that? I think when I first saw it too, I'm like, wait, who's that? Who's
Yeah.
dead?
It's another moment of it's like, oh, everyone's accounted for. So who the fuck is this?
Strawberry Fields, the character could be cut from the film 100% and nothing would change. This whole movie is sold on the idea of Bond trying to recover from Vesper, which is great, fine, interesting enough idea, but it's sort of muddled when you have him just conquest this random MI6 liaison agent, which... Okay, if you're getting over the love of your life, the next thing you need to move on from that, it needs to be something special by having him just fuck Agent Fields like any other Bond girl. You know, that gravitas of, you know, whatever came next after Vesper is lost.
I get how some people complain about, you know, the Vesper thing sticks around for too long, but it's especially worse in this one because it really does feel like Bond is a teenager writing angsty shit in the desert into a composition notebook this whole time. Like, I miss Vesper. My life sucks. It's like that's all this movie is. It's like angst, but it's angst with a budget.
You guys remember Guy Haines, right?
Actor.
vaguely.
No, character in the film.
In this film?
Yeah.
Oh wait, is that the guy working with Felix?
No.
What? Good
Okay.
work.
So the character Guy Haines, who was
That was M's bodyguard, right?
no
Wrong.
the character
Wrong.
the character of Guy Haines, who is mentioned a few times throughout the movie. He was the chief advisor to the prime minister who was working for Quantum. He is the guy whose bodyguard Bond pushes off the roof. So he Guy Haines
man.
was supposed to have a much larger role in the plot as like another secondary villain. But most of his scenes were cut from the film for time and pacing. So you have this
What
guy,
pacing?
so you have this guy. Okay, if he was included, that means that this movie would have been bogged down even more. Count your blessings.
I know.
So
Can I see the DVD?
Yeah, they already gave the current villain
don't
too
break
much
the
time.
disc. I know you want to, but don't break the disc.
So yeah, so that was an entire subplot that was cut from the movie, but they still mention him from like, oh, Guy Haines, he's important. He's not important. He never comes up again.
So Chaz, how long would you say this movie is?
At least 2 hours.
No.
Wait, don't tell.
An hour and 46, and yet it feels so much longer.
It feels so much
doesn't it?
longer than
God.
it is.
I fucking knew it.
This is the shortest Bond film, isn't it?
Oh my god, this is
I don't think so. I think it might be.
I mean,
going
Doctor No's like
down.
an hour and 50.
Doc-
But, I mean,
yeah, Doctor No's really short.
but I mean, that's a great example. Casino Royale does not feel like 2.5 hours. This feels like longer than an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's see. Another deleted scene would have depicted Bond killing Mr. White, but the scene was cut because they decided to keep Mr. White around for later sequels.
For no fucking reason.
who's Mr. White?
Exactly.
He's the guy that Bond shoots at the end of Casino Royale, is inside the trunk. They interrogate, learn about the quantum from him. He later shows up in the quantum meeting at the opera. He's the one guy who's smart enough not to stand up after Bond.
Outs them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, aside from Spectre, there's absolutely no fucking reason why he needs to stick around.
Okay, let's see. What else is fun? Let's have,
Fun?
What fun?
What do you
let's have
mean
some
else?
fun. Okay, let's see. A series of accidents during filming.
The entire movie.
including an Aston Martin employee accidentally driving into a lake while delivering the DBS to the set. So yeah, that plus the serious injury of 2 stuntmen later on caused sensationalist tabloid media to call the film cursed. That said, I'm pretty sure this movie wanted to kill Daniel Craig, as he got injured 6 times during filming, including 2 face injuries that required stitches and minor plastic surgery. A shoulder injury that had to be fixed with screws, and the tip of his finger being sliced off. It grew back.
I know that movies have accidents all the time, but I've noticed that
Craig gets hurt a lot.
I've noticed that the movies where this kind of shit happens are usually the ones that turn out to be shit. And it's because of poor direction and mismanagement. And it sounds like there's a lot in this.
All right. So here's the part where Cruz is going to hate everything that comes out of my mouth.
Because last night Jake said that he was going to try to play devil's advocate for this
I'm going
film.
to play devil's advocate for Quantum of Solace. I am not going to try to convince that this movie is a good movie. I am just going to state its case.
Okay. I'm gonna
And
close my eyes
advocate.
and listen.
As I've said, I do not like this movie. However, that does not mean I hate everything about it. So, I would like to take this time and play devil's advocate to not only state the movie's case, but also state why I think it is both a deserving and important piece of James Bond canon, just not a good one. Despite what you may say, I like the overall story. I think it could have been done with a few more rewrites to polish things up, but the concept and general progression of the story is fine. While this is the start of my largest criticism of the Craig era, that being the Bond goes rogue trope being overused, it wasn't stale yet and had the potential to be just as interesting of a concept as it had been in License to Kill had it been given some more care and attention. The more grounded, lower stakes plot works in the movie's favor, since it is more about Bond's growth as a character as opposed to a standard save-the-world plot. It allows Craig Bond to be more humanized, which is the greatest strength of his version of the character. Craig's performance is believable, and the film treats the central dilemma with the appropriate level of gravitas. I do genuinely like Dominic Green as a villain. Matthew Amalric's bug-eyed stare and general sliminess give Green a pathetic quality that makes him memorable. Whereas Le Chiffre obfuscated his weakness with false bravado, Green's instability is on full display, which gives him an unpredictable menace, like he could snap at any moment. He is in charge, but he's not in control, and I like that. Finally, I do think that this movie is both important and necessary to the larger Craig story. It is commonly said that Casino Royale is the James Bond origin story, that Bond had truly become 007 by the film's end. I don't entirely agree with that. I think Casino and Quantum together form that origin, and Bond couldn't truly be complete until he found resolution by forgiving himself for Vesper's death. The bitch is dead is not the ultimate conclusion for this arc, and it was never intended to be, because Vesper is not just the bitch. Quantum of Solace shows the emotional damage of losing the love of one's life that Diamonds Are Forever should have had. At the end of Casino Royale, Bond still needed to heal, and it was only through that healing that he could truly be in the headspace that the series needed him to be in by the time of Skyfall. Whether or not Quantum of Solace did this successfully is up to your personal interpretation, but I do feel it is a necessary through line that, in the larger picture, helps the Craig saga be more cohesive, and part of me feels that Skyfall would not have been as good as it was without it.
B plus.
Hey, it's above average.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like he says at the end of this film, like probably the only good one-liner I think he says is, "I never left."
I do like that line.
But I have a problem with that too. I don't think that this movie has a story. I think it has a plot. What Jake said about his natural progression for his character, I think it definitely tries to do that and it wants to do that. It just doesn't succeed. I think that you could take the opening and the ending of this film and use that as the next step to Skyfall to show that all the events that happen in this film that have nothing to do with Bond can be removed because all he really needs is
Closure.
right, with Mr. White and finding the boyfriend and letting the necklace go and saying, I never left. And when he says, I never left, that's why I don't agree with your point on when there's no point where he feels like he's rogue. It feels like they're just like booping him on the nose and he goes off on his way. We need you back. And I'm thinking, the fuck, he never left. He's like, I never left. No, I know you never left.
Like there's no consequences to him doing this semi-personal vendetta.
It's another point of this movie that was supposed to be a big thing, but they didn't do anything with it. The idea of Bond being in a rogue state and being hunted by both MI6 and the CIA.
Which I didn't.
And you can see the seeds there, but they didn't sprout.
Especially when Felix says you have 30 seconds, go, and the SWAT team bursts into the bar. James leaves the bar, walks away.
This needed to be 2 movies so they could actually tell the fucking story, and hopefully the second one would be shot right.
That's funny that you say that, kids? Because this is already the second half of 2 movies.
Yeah.
And not a good second half.
No, it's not.
And what did we learn, kids? There is no story.
Like
no spoon.
Fair enough. I will concede the point of story versus plot, because that does play into what I was saying yesterday, which was the overall plot of the movie, although it's executed and done poorly, is an okay plot.
But that's not saying much.
It's really not.
Easy, because like I said last night, it's easy to have a bullet list of what you need to do.
Yeah.
It's different to have a story with
I
arcs
agree
and
with
characters.
that. Like, I can concede that point of the story isn't decent, but the plot of what it plays into overall, that's what I was trying to convey yesterday.
And in regards to Green, yes, I do understand like the difference between him and Le Chiffre is also pathetic, but Green is worse because even though you say like he doesn't have any kind of stability to him, I don't feel like he can freak out at any moment and lose control like Christopher Walken could.
Oh, Christopher Walken acts circles around Dominic Green.
Right.
Like the thing that I kind of like about Dominic Green, because I do kind of like him, he feels like a guy who thinks he's bigger than he is. He thinks he's hot shit.
Yeah, for sure.
But you as the viewer know he's not, and so you're supposed to be like, dude, you're not threatening.
I would rather have a badly executed villain than a completely unmemorable villain.
Who is the unmemorable villain again? Though?
I don't remember.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. I don't remember him, and I
he
think
sticks in my mind. To me, he's memorable.
If he didn't have a weird face, would he stick in your mind?
You know what?
Yeah.
Fair enough. That is a big part of it is his fucking face because goddamn those eyes are huge.
So I guess my main question to sum up your defense, which does make sense, I can see how you are trying to have a good explanation as to what this movie tried to do. But would you make someone sit through this, or would you just sum it up in 2 sentences for them and move on to Skyfall?
Oh, I'd probably just sum it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, these marshmallows are okay at best.
I have no idea what you have said.
I ate mine in 2 bites, like a big boy.
Hold 1 for yes or 2 for no. Do you want some?
You want water? Okay, I'm out of ideas. 1 is the loneliest number you could ever do. Wait, Cruz, say Fluffy Bunny.
Oh no.
Still can't understand a goddamn thing.
What's that, Cruz? Little Timmy is stuck down the well.
What sets the Millennium series apart is how 5 of the 6 films are direct sequels to the original 1954 Godzilla, giving different writers and directors the chance to give their own spin on the monster. That being said, this also causes the Millennium series to be the most mixed-bagged of the franchise, with Megaguirus unfortunately being one of the low points. The story follows how the military want to shoot a black hole at Godzilla in order to eliminate him for good, but inadvertently allow a prehistoric dragonfly to enter the present day and eventually become the sinister female kaiju Megaguirus. Unfortunately, an interesting concept can't save this film from its lackluster visual style, uninteresting characters, and mediocre effects. But what did you guys think of Just Another Bug Hunt?
I'm going to have to disagree on a lot of those points.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Like,
Now, to be fair, to
like-
be fair,
Yeah.
I did say last night that this movie is a lot better than I first remember it. This is the second time I've watched it since watching it as a teenager. But I do still stand by all the points that I said. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but I still think it possesses bad elements.
It's not Quantum of Solace bad.
No, of course not.
No. But anyway, like
That was the lesser of two evils in this.
This movie is actually kind of up there in my list of favorites in a weird way because it was taking itself not seriously and it knew that, and so it ran with it, and so despite it not being the best well put together, it was still a lot of fun.
Like, this movie certainly does seem to have its somewhat like weak points, but it does have all of the strengths, at least, that you would want in a normal Godzilla movie.
There were some weak characters, mainly the kid that disappeared for half the movie twice.
Like, you think he's gonna play a bigger role?
The
in
kid,
Like,
the kid
no.
who essentially killed hundreds of people.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're making that joke. We're like the little kid is like, interacting with like the main girl, and she kind of just goes into this thing of like it wasn't your fault. I'm like, no, it kind of was.
Yeah. I should have
Like,
touched the egg. We missed.
At the end of the film, she's punching the big, corporation guy, but she should also be like, wait a minute, I should go punch that kid as well.
That said, though, not the most insufferable child we've had to deal with in
That's
this
true.
series.
No.
And that's because he's barely in
He's
it.
barely in it.
Yeah.
He's barely in it, and he doesn't even really say much at all.
He just accidentally incites the plot, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like, as like kind of like this is a cute oblivious kid kind of moving the plot along. It's like it's not bad.
I did like the main girl though. I quite enjoyed her character. Her and the kind of the dweeby science kid. They were fun. I enjoyed watching them.
I did too. Like they weren't interesting, but they were fun.
Well, the thing about those characters is that, no, they're not bad, but I still find them uninteresting. I think they're okay for the purpose that they need to serve, but compared to other characters that we've seen, they're just.
I like how the main girl was given a believable backstory that we've had a number of characters like that in the past where like Godzilla did something bad to me and now I hate Godzilla. Out of all those characters that fit into that archetype, she is the most believable.
She feels like someone who can get shit done. I would.
Yeah,
agree.
and I feel like her feelings towards Godzilla isn't just straight up hatred, vengeance, animosity. There is kind of a bit of complexity in there.
And to her credit, she is the first character in Godzilla history to actually touch Godzilla.
Which was such a cool moment.
And just riding on Godzilla like
Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah, like Shadow of the Colossus style almost.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is like you haven't seen this before.
No, I would say she probably has like the biggest balls of any character in this series
Yeah.
since Serizawa.
Especially since they also show in this movie that when Godzilla uses his atomic breath, his spines that when they light up, they also heat up enough to
Which makes sense.
incinerate bugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
As we see in the opening scenes, they chroma key the new Godzilla suit into old footage, which I can't fucking
That was so dumb.
stand. There are a lot of
Yeah.
fans who really like it. I cannot stand it.
I didn't
at
like it
all.
either.
It didn't bother me, but I totally understand why that would be bothersome.
It's so fucking irritating.
Yeah, I get that, but I
The
honestly
fact
didn't.
that no one else has felt the need to do that
Yeah, well, it's just showing that, hey, this is a direct sequel to 1954.
Yeah.
And this is where it's going.
I do feel like that whole establishment of that was a little long, but
Which is so weird because you could easily say this is a sequel to 2000. Like, it's the same suit. You don't really need to acknowledge
it
the
was
events.
the same suit.
Yeah, same suit.
I thought so.
Avocadozilla.
Yeah. What was the girl's name?
No idea.
Oh, that's an interesting
The
name.
main character?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't care enough to know.
What a fascinating name for a protagonist.
Cruz, Chaz, can you look it up for me, please?
Misato Tanaka, I think. Or wait.
That was not.
No, that was not it.
Okay, see, there's...
The name of the character is the one that's not in bold.
That's not in bold?
Right.
Wait, which one's that?
The character's name.
Kiriko Sujimori.
Oh.
Kiriko,
Oh.
yeah, that was it.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
that's the character name. Okay,
The
I'm sorry.
fact that Kiriko sucker punched that guy in the face, I love that so much.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
That was like, I like you, but I do like her and the nerdy guys.
Otacon.
Otacon.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
he was basically Otacon.
But I really did like their dynamic together, and they both ended up having something that was like, you guys are fun. I get a drink with you two, kind of thing.
They do have some nice back and forth, considering how much ingrained her Godzilla vendetta was. I was expecting more to come out about her connection with her commanding officer. who
I was
died.
too, which is why I was still on the fence about whether or not I was liking her up until she punched that guy in the face.
Yeah, like I think that would have given the movie some depth that Cruz feels like this movie could
Definitely. I do feel like there could have been some better establishing statements between their relationship between the two, because part of me almost felt like there was a bit of an unspoken crush between the two, or at least her onto him.
Like that could be it. I thought,
but I couldn't tell, and in the end, it wasn't explained, so we can only speculate.
like I feel like her relationship to her commanding officer was more of a mentorship, but
Possibly.
there is definitely that possibility that more was going on.
Yeah, I don't think it was a mutual. I don't think there was anything actively between the two that was done, but I do feel like one of them at least had something more for the other. I don't know.
That's the face of a man. It's just like that. I just listened to 5 minutes of people questioning whether these characters had were a good couple or not.
That wasn't 5
For me,
minutes.
it's just like, wow, I can't believe there's like one slice of ham in the sandwich. I mean, there could have been two. There could have been three. But I mean, like the fact that it only had one leaves so much to speculate at.
I wasn't going for that. I wasn't.
I get it. I mean, I love the fact that you guys got something out of this movie. That's
Yeah.
really good. But at the same time, it's like, it's very
Cruz-
basic.
Cruz-
It's
Cruz is
very
sitting here-
basic.
Cruz is sitting here thinking like, we could be talking about dragonflies right now.
Yeah.
I'm also just thinking of like the other good movies that are in the series, and I'm like, can we praise these? I mean, I know we haven't met them yet. Can we praise these people instead?
Fair enough, but I
That's
don't.
fine, that's fine.
I understand looking at characters as from the series as a whole, but that's a separate conversation in my
Yeah,
opinion. In general, even
Yeah,
with,
that's fine.
with Bond movies. So like this movie as a whole,
Well, since you love the characters so much,
Yeah.
can anyone tell me which character in this movie is played by a Showa era actress?
No.
the scientist, the lead scientist girl.
Oh yeah, the lead scientist woman.
Yep.
That would be my first.
Yes, I caught it.
Yuriko Hoshi was originally in Godzilla vs. Mothra and Ghidorah, the three-headed monster.
I was thinking it was Mothra.
And much like the random, obnoxious children's TV show hosts in this movie,
Yeah.
Was that an actual Japanese?
it was not. This movie's tone and bright lighting during the fight scenes lend this daytime television look that I think makes it look cheap. There's just something like early 2000s Japan daytime TV that I don't care for this film. Like, it looks a lot better than 2000, but it just doesn't have the cinematic look to it.
It's trying to
Are
be.
you saying that 2000 had that look? Despite-
No.
Okay. I was just trying to make sure. So you're saying like pre-2000, there were other movies that looked more cinematic than this?
No, what I'm saying is that, like, if you look at Japanese media and television at that time, it has that look to it that Megaguirus has.
This movie is trying to be the Japanese game show of Godzilla movies.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Kwaki Serpi Niku.
Speaking of Showa era, Megaguirus and the Meganulon are actually based on the Meganula monsters from the original 1956 Rodan.
Interesting.
And although they might not look as horrifying as the Millennium ones, believe me, these fucking bugs are what make the original Rodan feel like a genuine horror movie. So that's one of its victims.
Oh God. Oh Jesus. Oh, God. Yeah. That'll stop it.
Paper screen, help me!
I don't really have like a fear of insects, but there were some moments in this movie where like I would see it, I'm like, no, don't like that.
Same.
Like seeing that entire side of the building just covered inch by inch with like, cicada style. Yeah. It's just like, no.
Yeah.
And they're all molting at the same time, and then they start flying away. It's just like, like seeing them swarm and then start landing on Godzilla just gave me flashbacks to being back in New York when I lived next to a bay, and they would be in massive, thick swarms you could barely see through. It's just like, no.
I'm in danger. Until you got close-ups of the computer-generated graphics, they were fucking creepy.
They did look better from afar.
Yeah.
I was hoping, because in my memory I had more, memory of them actually attacking and killing people, which made it feel like a horror film. But we just get those two victims, which is still pretty horrific.
It's only like less than 5 seconds, but that has to be like the most brutal shot in Godzilla of a human death, is just seeing someone get eaten by that bug.
And then just like dragged.
So thoughts on Megaguirus, the second oldest monster next to Destroya?
I love him.
I like the design.
He was cool.
And I liked the
all right.
the I don't want to say faux intelligence, but the intelligence behind
There
him.
was intelligence.
No, there's definitely intelligence.
Yeah,
And the scene of her smiling
That's awesome.
was it was
awesome.
great. It was cheesy, but it was funny. But when she drops, what was it that she dropped? Like a giant pet. Like
it's like a part of a building that's like diamond shaped and yellow, and so you
Yeah.
see it like when they start
what's
fighting.
that called? Like that's
I don't know. It's just like some part of the building that's probably an office or some other part of the building.
it's like an actual like logo or emblem, but there's like another word.
No, I don't think there was anything written on it.
It's a building.
Yeah,
No,
it was just part of a building that an architect was like, yes, this will make me look real good.
The architectural design of that thing, and then the bug just slams it down. I think it smiled first and then dropped
Yeah.
it on Godzilla. It knew what it was doing.
She's not just, an animal trying to survive in a world that she doesn't fit in, which is a lot of kaijus fall into that category. No, there is intelligence and sadism within this creature enough that you could, classify her as truly an evil being.
Yeah.
So thoughts on the, the other subtitle of this film is G Annihilation Strategy, which I guess consists of...
Where was that?
That was part of the Japanese subtitle. Yeah, G Graspers inventing a black hole to shoot at Godzilla.
I'm surprised the
'cause that
black hole
sounds
actually worked.
It didn't, though. Twice.
Well, I mean, the fact that they were able to make a black hole successfully collapse in on itself after being fired instead of destroying the planet immediately, I'm actually impressed with that.
By all accounts, they should have just fucked up the entire planet.
The fact that they were even just testing it on just some old building instead of like on the microscopic scale is just like, Well, it's good to see these Japanese anti-Godzilla companies are still reckless.
Who needs CERN when we have Blofeld satellites?
Yeah.
It's odd because it wasn't that long ago that we were treating the death of Godzilla as something tragic and beautiful and sorrowful with gravitas. But then we get to this in which, this human organization did, as far as they believed at the time, killed Godzilla. You can use the word seal away all you want. It's a fucking black hole. If this worked, he would be fucking dead. So they have, for all intents and purposes, killed Godzilla. And it's treated with revelry and celebration. want to cheer for the death of Godzilla, which makes sense why they added the stinger at the end to show that he's not really dead, he's back.
Which of course will go nowhere because
Every story's a reboot,
Yeah.
but it's just from an audience perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, I get that you, the characters, are glad that you accomplished what you set out to do, but that was fucking Godzilla, man.
Yeah, that's why
Not cool.
The way with it looks, like the daytime TV look, it does feel like another episode of Godzilla.
Yeah.
I will admit there were definitely scenes that were giving me like Ultra 7 vibes.
And the two freeze frames that it has in the movie, but both at the end of the pre-credit sequence and then the end of the post-credit sequence, which
Both
is
ended with a freeze frame that lasted just a smidgen too long.
like when the first freeze frame happened, I thought the projector froze.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
We could have had a great fade out where she's looking at the smithereens of the city, where Jake goes, "I saved the day."
That was really fucking funny.
And that's what it felt like. She's looking over the landscape of just a completely fucked up Tokyo. Tokyo is just absolutely gone.
Because of the
And
black hole, not even Godzilla.
And she's standing there triumphantly while triumphant music plays. It's like, we did it, boys. We saved the world.
Like just this triumphant
The
music.
city is safe.
This triumphant music over this newly apocalypsed Japan. Man, at this rate, instead of like a government organization like Grasper, they should just get like the Akira program or something.
Not only that, but when you think about it, I mean, one of the saving graces about Godzilla is them realizing, oh, maybe we should not get rid of him because he can kill other big things.
I like that there was that bit of meta knowledge. I'm like, granted, because each of these Millennium stories is essentially, a reboot, we find ourselves in a world in which they haven't been attacked by a different kaiju every 2 years.
But it is that thing of like, well, if you guys mess with science again and we get another big thing, well, Godzilla's not around. He's in a black hole somewhere.
Oh, just shoot a new black hole at the new big thing.
And the thing is,
I guess.
Sorry, can I go?
There's another dimension out there that's going, where the fuck are all these monsters coming from?
Yeah, like
So that's how Powerpuff Girls happened.
what the reboot?
No, the classic one. All those giant kaijus and Powerpuff
Oh,
Girls.
yeah.
They were just sent there from black holes.
That's how Monster Island happened in that
Yes,
show.
it makes so much sense now.
I kind of feel like, I guess my own headcanon that it wasn't a black hole, it was a wormhole. And it sucked him out into a different area. But that other wormhole that still exists was able to get away back through time, whatever.
Well, you see, what with the whole wormhole thing, they're actually setting up Godzilla No Way Home. And then Millennium,
Shut up.
Heisei, and Showa
Shut up.
Godzillas are all going to team up together.
So one of the highlights of the movie is the score by Michiru Oshima, the first and only female composer of the series, who not only gives the movie a triumphant and powerful soundtrack, but gives the Millennium Godzilla a brand new theme song, which is menacing and intimidating. Now can you notice the music, Willie?
Okay, yeah, I do see those scenes that were lacking music now.
This music is literally shaking the walls of the theater.
And I
did, I
really
felt
liked
it.
the music in this one.
Good.
I felt
really
it.
liked it. Like I noticed that it felt different.
There were a couple of times in which I felt like the back of my seat shake. I'm like, ooh.
And especially with Megaguirus, like we go from like, oh, that's a cool creature, and as soon as she screeches, everyone's like, ah.
What happened to me in the span of like a second was, fuck, that hurt my ears. That was cool though.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
it
for
was
sure.
like, ow. Oh.
It works really well with the 5.1 because as she's flying around Godzilla's head, you can hear it going from left
Yeah.
to right, left to right.
Yeah.
That tripped me out.
So one of the once again going back to one of the greatest moments of my life, which is seeing these scores performed live, was that Michiru Oshima was actually there to compose her music from the films.
Conduct, you mean?
Yeah, conduct, yeah.
Okay. I was like, compose.
It's just you're literally on stage, just like right in the music.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
like,
It's gonna be good.
I was like, I know there's another word. It's not compose. What word am I thinking of?
All right, everybody. I know you came here for the soundtrack to the movies, but I have written Godzilla-esque music. for
Well,
all
actually, no,
everyone,
no,
right?
no. That's sort of true because she did write an original composition called Godzilla Emerges from, I think, Chicago Bay or something. So we heard a brand new composition.
Oh,
from
that's
her.
cool.
so
actually.
cool.
That
It
is
was
cool.
great. Yeah, much applause, standing ovation, roses, everything. Like we respected the fact that she was there. And she respected the fact that we were there, so much so that, you know how the theme is bum ba, bum ba, bum bum ba, right? Mm-hmm. She told us all to join in on it by just going. So it's an entire audience full of people working along with the orchestra, and it was the coolest thing ever.
That makes me so happy.
It was the coolest thing ever.
So, Cruz, you got to work with the orchestra with the Godzilla composer.
And I will put that in the episode so you can actually hear everyone in the audience.
I was about to say.
I'm in that audience.
Nice.
This movie utilized humor in a really unique way.
Yeah.
Because there were some humorous moments, but the comedy blended in with the seriousness in such a way that I'm not sure if I've ever seen humor organically baked into a product that well before.
Yeah.
I can't help but compare it to like modern Marvel movies where they're always trying to inject humor in between their action sequences, and a lot of times it just comes off as forced. Yeah. Whereas a movie like this, like, okay, there is funny things happening in the middle of the action sequence, but it's not detrimenting the action sequence at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they fully understood how to inject comedy with it, like whether it's Godzilla spinning his tail or doing a body slam, having that samurai moment.
That was so cool.
That cinematic moment of, oh my god, he's stabbed in the mouth. No, he's not.
Yeah, so cool.
This movie had a lot of campiness that is the kind of campiness that I really, really enjoy in movies.
The movie invites you to have fun alongside it.
Yeah.
And in that case, I guess I'm glad that Jake pointed that out, because when I think about it, the Millennium series does a good job of understanding what they are and injecting some comedy into it, and that comes across. Yeah, exactly. it comes across really well in the suit acting as well. So you will get some more funny moments as the series continues.
How many more times do they reuse the suit?
This is the last time we see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say good, but
it's not one of my favorites. So
Bye-bye,
it gets better.
I think the way they used it in this movie, it did kind of start to grow on me.
Yeah, this movie, it looked better, and I don't know how or why.
This is the Dalton of the suits.
Yeah, there's only two.
Godzilla's reaction to getting hit by the jet sold it. Where he just kind of stops and just looks up like, fucking really?
Can I help you?
Yeah.
I've been hit by missiles, torpedoes, and battleship
And
guns.
now you're just throwing planes at me. Oh fuck!
I don't
can't believe you've done this. I gotta do that too.
I want to throw the word closure. I like how she got some closure before that, at that moment, as she sets the dog tags on the controls and lets the black hole basically take him. Yeah, she had a closure, and so that was like a really cool. It's actually kind of a cool tie-in to the Bond movie in a way. She did it right.
She let go of her trauma and her hatred. She let go of her trauma and her hatred.
As Japan becomes a desert. Fuck.
So, Jake, would you recommend Quantum of Solace or Godzilla vs. Megaguirus to a first-time viewer?
My answer for
Yes
this
and
one-
yes. Next question.
My answer for this one's going to be simple.
We are currently in a Mexican standoff.
Quantum of Solace. The action scenes are unwatchable. Everything between the action scenes is boring and pointless. And even if that weren't the case, I wouldn't be able to recommend it on the count of it being a direct follow-up sequel.
Yeah.
So no, I will not be recommending Quantum of Solace for a first-time viewing or a 25th time viewing for that matter. Megaguirus? Yeah, go for it. It's a blast.
Quantum of Solace is just an absolute mess. It suffers in countless regards of execution, editing, production, and just hurts to look at. Godzilla versus Megaguirus was an absolute fun blast. It was cheesy, it was campy, it was a campiness and cheesiness that I could appreciate for being a first-time introduction into it.
Ha! No.
Good answer.
Quantum of Solace, very, very hard no, just because it's like everything Jake said, and it's just as someone who lives in a desert, the last thing I need is to have the symbolism of how barren and depressing a desert is reinforced. So it's an extra no for me. Megaguirus, not the best first watch. There's certainly better campy Godzilla movies, but this certainly wouldn't be one that turns you off the series like Quantum of Solace might.
Quantum of Solace, I don't need to spend any more time, throwing shade at it. Yeah, it's just straight up bad. It is a direct sequel. It makes zero sense to start with this completely. And it is a Bond film that I just consider completely bad, poorly made. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, because of the fact that there are better films to start with, I would have to say no. But I am very appreciative that my friends enjoyed it, and I'm glad that it is better than I remember. It's still a no, but hey, it's better than I thought.
Next time on James Bond, we celebrate the 50th film anniversary with an entry that both celebrates the past while looking to the future. James Bond will return in Skyfall.
And next time on Godzilla, what happens when the people of Japan disrespect their ancestors and forget their own history? Well, obviously, Godzilla returns as the manifestation of all the dead souls of World War II. It's time to summon the guardian monsters in what is arguably the best film in the Millennium series. Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, giant monsters, all-out attack. Thank you all for listening to Bond vs. Godzilla. We'll see you next time with a martini in one hand and a rubber suit in the other.
Stay tuned and stay watching. Just not Quantum of Solace. Don't watch that.